see how well that gets enforced. Because, like I said,
they're doing it in Georgia. They're doing it in.
Hold on, cool. Goddamn, cool. Cool. Relax, bro. Relax.
You're seeing how far it's going. It's being done.
Jesus.
It's tough to get every single.
I think some of these motherfuckers' mouths open up.
I muted him. Sick. Please continue.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, man. I think some people, when their mouths open, their ears just shut down automatically. It's like this weird check valve shit, man. But anyways, what I was saying is we'll see how well that gets enforced. Because like I said, I've had issues with like when we land to either up cargo or to drop cargo off. Usually the semi trucks come onto the airplane, the aviation tarmac, the ramp, right next to our plane, and we load and offload shit. Sometimes these brokers, with some of our shipments, we might get scheduled to have 30 pallets or 30 skids full of parts. Well, the manufacturing facility was only able to make 15, but the paperwork doesn't reflect. And when I'm asking them about the paperwork to make sure all the counts are right, part numbers are right, things like that. Anything outside of sign this piece of paper or 25 pallets or 10 pallets or gets enforced.
It's gonna take some time. They're weeding them out at truck stops, at weight stations. They're getting asked these questions at weight stations and at truck stops. So they're now enforcing it at these weight stations. So they're not catching everyone. There's still gonna be people falling through the cracks, but they are starting to enforce it when they're going over scales. If they hear you can't speak on the English on the scale, when you get weighed, they're pulling you in. They're gonna ask for this stuff. They're purposely looking for all this. So it's just not that it's not being enforced. It's gonna take some time. It just officially is being pushed right now. For a long time. Yes, I'm on the road right now. I said in 20 minutes.
Okay. What's your two channels? What's the two channels you have?
Two channels, 19 and 9.
Okay, he's a drunk. Gotcha.
Here, do you want to hear me on my TV?
No.
Radio check?
No. No. You don't have to do that.
Well, I do have a TV, if someone ever answers. But in the Northeast, they don't really answer that often.
What you run? You run the Cobra?
I got a Bearcat 880. I do want one of the Strikers. Striker is better. But they're like $400. Striker's $400. They're a lot better.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
But I don't know, man. Nara's got a point. And I remember, you guys remember that documentary with, what's that fucking Mike Moore? I think it was like Me and Roger or something like that. He made that documentary. And he had that interview with Phil Knight, who was the founder and CEO of Nike. And that was the same talking point Phil Knight brought up back in the 90s when that documentary came out. Because Mike Moore asked me, he's like, come build a factory in Flint. We got so many.
That was Roger and me. He started the.
That's what I said. Roger made the documentary.
And that was GM. That was not Nike.
No, it was Nike. Phil Knight was the CEO of Nike. He was interviewing Phil Knight in that interview, in that documentary.
Not Roger and me. No.
Okay, it might have been another one. Yeah, it might have been another one. Might have been another documentary. But there was a documentary where Mike Moore was interviewing Phil Knight, and he said, "Hey, the unemployment rate in Flint is so high. Build a Nike factory here, and we guarantee you we'll have a bunch of people that you can employ and that will happily work in your factories to make a living." The first thing that came out of his mouth was, "Oh, Americans don't want to do this work," pretty much alluding to they're too lazy. This is the type of work they don't want to do. So, that's the reason why my factories aren't in China and I'm paying people 15 cents a day to make Nike shoes. But I think a lot of that is an excuse. I think it's bullshit for these corporation owners to get away with, making more revenue and keeping more profit in their pockets. But I do think it's bullshit. I think Americans are more than happy when it